try to. It's not quite simple. And I'm also the coordinator for all the activities related to the Millennium Development Goals. Do any of you know what are the Millennium Development Goals? Have you heard about it? Just a little bit maybe? Okay, good. Well, but before I start, let me tell you a little bit about my life. How did I get here? I have an undergraduate degree in political science. After that, I got a master's degree in public administration and development studies, and a PhD as well in New York. And that's when I started working with developing countries and development issues. First, I worked with legislatures around Africa, Latin America, and a few countries in Europe. From New York most of the time. I worked for the Center for International Development in New York and used to travel abroad to do this job. When I got pregnant with my second child, I said, the U.S. is not a good place to have a career and raise a baby. You're too little, I travel too often, so I decided to come back home to Brazil. I'm sorry. So I came back home, hoping I was going to have more time with the kids, and that was not quite what happened, because once you get started working with this, social development, environmental development, human development, you just cannot go back home and go to sleep early. It becomes your mission in life. It becomes your life. It's no longer a job. It's not a work you do from 9 to 5. You actually, it becomes your life. Definitely becomes your life. And you get the people in your life involved. So now my oldest kid is 8 years old, and he goes around and teaches other kids about the Millennium Development Goals as well. So my kids go to work with me. They get involved, not as much as I would like to, because we live in a big city. So they also feel a little weird when we go to poor places and they have to go back to their school and tell their friends that they have to respect the environment, and they have to share, and not only share with their friends, but share with another community. It's difficult for them. And I understand when they don't want to give us their toys and share their stuff, but it's a process that I believe we have to teach young kids from the youth as well. It's their responsibility as well to share their different way of living and their money and everything else. We live in and it's the same world. That's what everyone needs to understand. So not too long ago, I started working with the Millennium Development Goals, which in Brazil is this huge thing. It's a big campaign. But let me start from the beginning, for maybe some of you have never learned and never heard of the Millennium Development Goals. So try to find some English literature about it, but I couldn't find much. So in the 1990s, there were many conferences, world conferences, talking about climate change already, poverty, peace, dignity, human development, social development, environmental development. And there were all these conferences, and they came together in the year 2000. All this information were put together, and all the world leaders got together in New York, in the National Assembly, not the National Assembly, the General Assembly of the United Nations, and drafted what's called the Millennium Declaration. From the Millennium Declaration, the 8 Millennium Development Goals were drafted. So these were the 8 Millennium Goals, okay? Eradicate extreme poverty and hunger, achieve universal primary education, promote gender equality and empower women, reduce child mortality, improve maternal health, combat HIV/AIDS, malaria, and other diseases, ensure environmental sustainability, and develop a global partnership for development. These 8 goals, within each of these goals there are several targets to be met by 2015. Some before, but most of them by 2015. This is the first, let's say, the most comprehensive agreement among the world leaders to promote development in a more inclusive way. It was really looking into ending hunger, fighting poverty, and everything related to it. So it became very clear that these 8 goals together, once you tie them together, it's really the only way to get development to move forward. Of course, this is not all. There's much more we need to do. You know, especially in Brazil. You know, when I talk to kids, especially, they say, "Oh, there's no violence in there. How come? You know, this is one of our biggest problems. Fight corruption, fight violence." Well, if you think about it, it's all about interpretation. When I look at goal number 7, which is environmental sustainability, it's also quality of life. To have quality of life, I believe you have to have a safe community. You have to have ethics. You have to have peace. So each one of these goals, it promotes an idea of well-being. There's much more that needs to be included in these goals, but this is the bare minimum. Any person needs to have a decent life. So all the countries in the world, not all of them, now 192 countries have signed the Millennium Declaration and have agreed to achieve these goals by 2015, including Brazil. What happens is that 5 years to the deadline, we're way behind schedule, way behind schedule. Most of the African countries will not reach most of the development goals. Brazil, as you guys saw, the Brazilian government, the national government, is very focused on trying to get the country to develop with a social responsibility to the way they're working. And when we look at the development goals, we see that the country is going very well at a national average. If we look at the average, the national average says we will probably meet all of the targets by 2015, if not all, most of them. But the national average means nothing in a country like Brazil. You know, it's so big. It's a continent within a country. So it really means nothing at all. So what became very clear is that civil society and the private sector need to join in this effort of the national government to get to the local governments. We need to get to the municipalities and help them reach the Millennium Goals. Because the national, when we get to 2015 and the President announces we met the goals, that will not be true unless most of the municipalities have also achieved these goals. So our work here in Brazil, and João is very key in this process, is to get to the poor communities, to listen to them, and to work with them, with their resources, exactly like you're doing here, with their resources, and try to help them develop in their own way. But also to promote a sense of responsibility, sharing the responsibility, sharing this this commitment. This is not a UN commitment. This is not just the world leaders' commitment. It's everyone's